Hi, Dave here. Before we get to this episode of the Cinemile, just a quick spoiler warning. There's a cameo in this movie, Hobbs and Shaw, of a pretty famous actor. If you don't want to know who that is, then watch out, because Cathy spoils it before we get to Spoiler Street. If you don't care, I mean, it's nothing to be worried about, then crack on. If not, go watch the movie, come back and listen. To be honest, that actor actually spoils the end of Game of Thrones in this movie, ironically, so I feel like they don't really deserve the spoiler warning. But anyway, you have been warned. On with the episode. Hi, it's Dave here, and this is my wife Cathy.
Hello!
You're listening to the Cinemile, where we walk home from the movies. Today, we're walking to what's it called? Hobbs and Shaw, a Fast and Furious tale. A story. The Fast and Furious. What it's called. Hobbs Furious.
It's an awful title, Hobbs and Shaw. It's a terrible title for a movie.
It's Hobbs and Shaw. Well, it's not a terrible title in that it's just their names, so it does what it
but it's utterly
says
meaningless
on the tin. Yeah, but they've also...
Unless you're going to do like Holmes and Watson, like you can't do a duo's name.
Name a more iconic duo than Hobbs and Shaw.
I can't.
You can't,
I
exactly.
just named one, Holmes and Watson.
Because they are the most famous action duo of all time. Now, we're being a bit facetious here, because we genuinely enjoyed watching The Rock and Jason Statham. I think they were the highlight of Fast and Furious 8.
Also known as
Tokyo
Fate.
Drift.
We did a huge review of that last...
Fate and the Furious.
Fate and the Furious.
Was that it?
We did a huge review of that last movie, including like a massive talk about the whole franchise a couple of years ago. So what we're going to do is repost that episode before we post this one, just save us having the same conversation again. So
you can consume this however you like. You could jump into your feed and it'll be right under this episode, and you can listen to that first to get our full history of our our relationship with the Fast and Furious family. Or you can just listen to this and not bother.
It probably doesn't matter.
Or you can just turn this off.
I couldn't even remember what we had thought of the last movie because we saw it so long ago. So weirdly, I went back and listened to our own review, which is how I know we talked so much about it.
Remind me what we thought of it.
We thought that it was silly and too long. Even though there was fun bits, we thought it was overall quite poor. Except we both said the best thing about it was Jason Statham and The Rock, which I'm guessing was the general.
Was good in it as well.
Yeah, but we were like as a duo, and just in general, they were kind of the only things that made the movie feel different from any of the other ones.
Yeah.
So I think clearly that was probably the general market consensus, because they've now got their own movie. Or else they listened to the Cinemile.
It did
before they commissioned this movie.
They were like, they definitely make a lot of their decisions based on what we say. I remember feeling, and I didn't listen back to our review, so this is me reaching back into the depths of my memory. I remember thinking that it felt like Vin Diesel was in a different movie to them.
Yeah, they were having fun. And
they were having fun, and he was like, it's almost like Vin Diesel takes this super seriously, and everyone else is just having a laugh. And famously, they don't get on. Vin Diesel and The Rock won't be on screen together. They hate each other, and Vin Diesel is furious that this movie exists.
Is Vin Diesel in this movie?
I can't say for certain, but I doubt it, because there's a lot of behind the scenes shenanigans going on.
Ooh. I mean, I haven't even seen a trailer for this. I did say at the end of our other review that I was never going to go and see one of these movies again, and I stand by that. Because I meant a Fast and the Furious movie. This, however, is a Hobbs and Shaw.
Furious movie.
This is a Hobbs and Shaw movie.
No, you're not getting this loophole. It has the words Fast and Furious in the title.
No, it's a Hobbs and Shaw movie.
No, it's not. It's a Hobbs and Shaw movie second.
So...
Oh, no, wait.
It's Hobbs and Shaw. That's the name of the movie.
It's Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, so it's Hobbs and Shaw. Like, Walter presents the bridge, but it's still the bridge. Walter just presents it. Except Walter presents his Channel 4 and the bridge is on BBC, right? So ignore that. You know that Channel 4 strand they do for foreign drama? Walter will present a foreign drama.
No.
All right, anyway, we're totally off track.
What are you talking about?
We need to go. We're going to our favourite cinema. They do the absolute best popcorn in the world, Light Cinema. So I'm just super pumped for it. The thing is, the Light Cinema.
We're going to the Light Cinema in Addleston. Might get some pizza, and I'm definitely having a glass of red wine.
Yeah, sounds good. Right,
if anyone cares.
I mean,
you don't care. You're all listening to our Fast and Furious 8 review.
This movie's going to be 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is 15 minutes shorter than the last one. So, fingers crossed it's good. Okay, bye.
Bye now.
Our target's name is Brixton. He's a ghost. We're gonna need the best trackers in the business. Luke Hobbs.
I'm what you call an ice-cold can of whoop-ass.
Career lawman. Always gets his guy. We're gonna need to operate outside the system. Deckard Shaw.
I'm what you might call a champagne problem.
Rogue former MI6 agent. Doesn't play well with others. If we stand a chance against Brixton, you guys have to work together.
No way.
This guy's a real ass.
This job requires stealth. Look at you.
I'm trying to save the world, which, for the record, will be my 4th time.
Hi, we're back. We just saw Hobbs and Shaw, the Fast and Furious spin-off. Fast and Furious spin-off saga presents Hobbs and Shaw. Cathy,
Are you done?
what did you think of the Hobbs and Shaw movie?
I mean, I enjoyed myself.
Oh wait, no, let's do a synopsis. Everyone else has asked us to do synopsis. Because if you're not going to go see this, you're going to want to know what this is about, right? So, allow me. Lawman Luke Hobbs and outcast Deckard Shaw form an unlikely alliance when a cybergenetically enhanced villain threatens the future of humanity. Which sounds like...
Great
That sounds like the back of a NES video game from the 80s, like Double Dragon style. That sounds like the sort of ridiculous, farcical B-movie one-sentence description of a nonsensical action video game that you used to get back then, with awesome artwork. And I mean that as a compliment, because that's an awesome sentence. Anyway, sorry, what do you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed myself.
You enjoyed yourself?
I had fun at the cinema, but...
You had fun at the cinema?
Yeah, I was enjoying
All right,
myself.
well, let's wrap it up there. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
But I was
we had
just
fun at the cinema.
I kept thinking...
Let's
I'm
get
glad
me
they've moved on from the Fast and the Furious traditional format. Right?
Oh, they haven't moved on.
Can I finish my point?
Okay.
So they've moved on in the sense that this is like very much like a buddy cop thing, and it's also very much like a spy thing. So in that sense, I like that. But I just kept throughout the movie thinking, I wish I was at a Mission Impossible movie.
Oh.
Because that's what this is trying to be, and it's just nowhere near it. And
so interesting.
And I think if I'd never seen a Mission Impossible, I might have enjoyed some of the break-in elements of this and the plotting. But they just felt so pedestrian and just really, they just didn't work. I mean, I think partially it's probably the same age as a Mission Impossible movie. It just felt like it thought the audience was much dumber than a Mission Impossible.
The same age, the same.
Like the same classification. I didn't get the classification, but it must be similar.
This felt very PG-13.
I mean, there was a lot of kids in our screening,
and the violence was not bloody.
But regardless, it felt like, to me, like it wasn't. Given how many of those movies we've had, this wasn't very well done. Some elements of it. I really, really enjoyed Jason Statham and The Rock together. Like, I think they're brilliant on screen. They have brilliant chemistry. I really enjoyed Idris Elba, who I didn't know was in it, so that was quite fun. And then I thought Vanessa Kirby was brilliant as Jason Statham's sister. She may have been in the last movie, I don't remember.
No, but you know what movie she was in last? Mission Impossible.
Was she?
Fallout. Yeah. She was Max's daughter.
Don't remember that. But what made me laugh out loud was when they introduced her as Jason Statham's sister, right? So before we meet her, we see a video, kind of flashback of a young Jason and his sister. And there's no more than 5 years age gap, right, between these two kids. His sister, I know Jason Statham's in his 50s, right?
Go on.
And
is he?
Yeah.
He looks well for his 50s.
I googled her age after we left the cinema because I just thought, this is ridiculous. So he's 52 and she's 32. So they're trying to do that thing that they always do with romantic leading males, where they'll be like, oh, look at this couple, they're kind of the same age, and it makes perfect sense that they're together and the man's 20 years older than the woman. They've taken it one step further and done that with siblings who were apparently roughly the same age as kids. And it's utterly ridiculous.
This is like when Angela Lansbury played Elvis's mother, and they were she was 5 years older than him.
Also, The Rock is must be pushing 50, is he?
I don't know.
Idris Elba definitely is.
You were the one doing
so
the Google
Google
age.
Of all these very middle-aged men, and the movie's trying to posit that they're the same age as this woman. Anyway, I thought it was ridiculous, but I thought she was brilliant.
Yeah, she was great.
I thought every scene she was in, she stole the show. I thought she was an amazing physical actress. She did such a good job on the stunts.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she probably did a stunt double, but she was amazing. I've had lots of good things to say about it. What about you?
It felt like she was doing more work than they were. Physically wise.
It did feel like that,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like that. I mean, it felt like...
Maybe that's just because we're not used to a woman being so kick-ass.
I gotta say, overall, I liked this. I had fun. I thought it was a good laugh. It is too long.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
too
flabby. I think you nailed it so perfectly, comparing it to Mission Impossible, and it's an unfair comparison in a way, but it's a
It invites the comparison.
Exactly. This movie has one of the writers of Rogue Nation as a co-writer.
Oh,
It's
really?
got Vanessa Kirby, and it wants to be a slick, cool spy thing with interesting action. It is, begging for that comparison, and it pales.
I mean, I would never try and make a movie in this vein that's in any way similar to it.
Well, you can't. It's interesting. Okay, so there's two actions. Another action movie comparison I'm going to make. So you've got Mission Impossible, which is Christopher McQuarrie, probably one of the greatest living action directors around, and Tom Cruise, a man who will up the ante on every movie about ways to put himself in danger to make the most realistic action scenes possible. And then you have the director of this movie, Hobbs and Shaw, who's David Leitch, who is responsible for some of the best action movies around. He co-directed John Wick. He directed Atomic Blonde.
I really like Atomic Blonde.
And Atomic Blonde and John Wick are good. That are the other examples I'm going to make. Compare this movie to, because those are two very movies with very accomplished action choreography, and David Leitch himself is a choreographer.
Well, it's interesting because I thought the hand-to-hand fighting in this was really good, as opposed to the big set pieces with the cars and stuff wasn't very good.
See, I
and maybe that's just
I think
apparent
the
from
complete
this
opposite.
direction. Oh,
I completely think the opposite.
What about the rain sequence? I thought that was awesome.
No, it wasn't. I don't think so. I think that it relied on slow motion Raging Bull style action, which isn't interesting, as opposed to very complex action choreography. This was all cuts and wobbly Paul Greengrass style action choreography. For the most part, this movie was. The movie doesn't have a lot of confidence in its performers performing this choreography, which begs me to believe, if you've got a director who's capable of doing that kind of action, as we saw him get out of Charlize Theron, I think, and I don't know because I wasn't there, but I feel like The Rock and Jason Statham either weren't willing to do the level of work required to get the kind of action choreography that Keanu Reeves gives in every John Wick movie, or somebody else determined that they weren't capable, or they tried and just weren't getting those levels of intense long take choreography.
It just wasn't. Maybe he just doesn't want to do the same thing, and he wants to do different stuff. I mean, they needed a lot of car sequences given the audience at this.
But I see this is again where I disagree with you, because I was really engaged in all the car stuff, and I liked that they had all that in it because it connected it to.
Well, they had to have
Fast and Furious.
But again, the car stuff, I kept thinking, oh, the car chases and the motorbike chases in Mission Impossible are way better than this. I can always, from start to finish, it's very unusual for me to be able to kind of engage with motor chases, right? I get bored. Mission Impossible, from start to finish, we're always really into them. These ones I was really disengaged.
Yeah, the bike
again.
chase in Mission Impossible Fallout last year is leagues above anything in this movie.
And there's an amazing helicopter thing in Mission Impossible as well, which I couldn't help compare to the helicopter thing in this. Like, it's like borrowing a lot. Obviously, none of them are unique ideas, but it happened to have so many things that were in the last Mission Impossible movie.
I know.
That were so much better. And that's why I think if I was younger, because there's loads of young people in our audience who were really, really liking it. Like preteen.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's really good for that audience. You know, it's just, I think...
There were a lot of kids there, weren't
and
there, with their
fun,
parents,
yeah.
which is kind of nice.
And it's school holidays, it makes sense.
I feel like this is kind of a fun movie to bring a 12 or 13-year-old to.
I think
It's
so.
safe. It's safe, enjoyable action. And the comedy, actually, because this is leans very heavily on the comedy, particularly because that's the whole dynamic of the two of them, but it feels juvenile, which I was going to say I wasn't really engaged with, but if I was a 13, 14-year-old, I probably would think like bald jokes are funny. And
I mean, the kids were laughing their heads off in our audience, and I was laughing too, because it's fun to be in an audience and have people laughing. That's a nice feeling.
Hugh Janus as an alias. I mean, it's the kind of jokes that literally you
Hugh
think are
Janus,
hilarious
I missed that.
when you're 12.
I totally missed that.
And my cock's small or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like
it's like-
penis jokes.
Which felt very old-fashioned, but in a kind of charming
Yeah,
way.
kind of works.
This movie relies on these two big, lumbering, mid-tier sort of action heroes, and they can carry it. Like,
They're really good together.
they can carry it. They're good together. They're fun together. I thought at times the movie pushed them a little too far with the banter. Like, some of the scenes of them bantering went on so long, and some of the jokes weren't landing.
They were my favourite scenes, right? And no spoilers, but there's a scene where they're kind of in close confinement bantering. And I could have watched that all night, like. I was like, this is my favourite part of the movie, the scene. And one other thing, to be fair, was really fun. There was a really good fight scene with Jason Statham. It's not a spoiler again. And he's like fighting with the toaster. Like, that was fun. Like, I enjoyed that as a prop. But
that was good.
That was fun. Like, there's fun stuff in this.
There's some interesting stuff in here, and I thought I actually think the whole end of this movie was worth it. This movie gets better, and actually,
it's a good ending.
The whole third act was really well. I know. I said the sort of hand-to-hand fight scene I didn't think were choreographed well, but on a grand scale, the way that whole action sort of scene from beginning to end, say the final action scene, was really
cool.
well laid out and was very enjoyable to watch and silly, which is what you kind of also want from a Fast and the Furious movie.
But you know what it did better than a
Silly,
Fast and
silly
Furious
action.
movie? Yeah, the action was silly and enjoyable.
But like, that's what I want.
You know the way, like, we always slag off Fast and the Furious movies because all they talk about is family. And
They
in
made
a
this
really
movie
annoying
about
way.
family.
This movie is actually about family, yeah. So it's not just a group of like doofuses going, "You're my family." It's like, no, you're actually not related. This is
While drinking Coronas on a
This
rooftop.
is really about
always.
Jason Statham and The Rock connecting with their families, and I enjoyed that. There was also some good, like, kind of cameos. I don't think they're cameos. Like,
They are cameos.
Ryan Reynolds, is that a cameo?
Hang on, whoa. Save it for Spoiler Street, honey.
Okay, will we just go to spoiler street?
Let's go to Spoiler Street. Some
Okay.
people might not want to know these things.
Okay, I mean, he's in like multiple scenes of the movie, though. It's not like a
Yes,
one
the
one
movie
and done.
they haven't seen yet, which is the whole point of spoilers.
Okay, well, we're on spoilers.
So I'll put a spoiler warning at the top. There was a cameo. That's definitely a cameo. No, I wasn't expecting that. But this is the director of Deadpool 2, so that it wasn't a big surprise that he did show up. But I thought he was doing his usual Ryan Reynolds shtick, and I liked it. It was funny.
Is he wary of being so typecast now, I wonder?
But everyone in this movie is typecast. It's literally, this movie may as well not have been called Hobbs and Shaw, because I couldn't before going into this movie I couldn't have told you which one was which.
Well, how would you have known before this movie, to be fair?
Because I've seen
Hobbs is The Rock, Shaw is Jason Statham. I learned in this movie.
But that's my point. You don't know. The movie should be called The Rock and Jason Statham. It may as well be called that. Co-starring Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart as Kevin Hart. Like, they're not. These aren't actors with range. They're just, and their names are actually bigger than the characters. Is my point. Like, we showed up for The Rock and we showed up for Jason Statham. It's not a Hobbs
but
and
that's like
Shaw
most
movie.
movies these
Do you know what I
days,
mean? What are you being so argumentative with me about
just
this
saying, like,
tiny point I'm making?
Just saying,
that's not just most movies these days, because
it was literally your problem with
James
the Lion
Bond
King.
is bigger than Daniel Craig, for instance.
Yeah, but James Bond's a franchise that's been running for like half a century.
Yeah, but that's exactly my point, Cathy. Why are we having this pointless argument? I'm saying that the name of the actors.
Down a residential street, and you're being really loud.
The name of the actors are bigger than the name of the fictional characters. Was the point I'm making?
Well, obviously
and you're saying no, that's the case for every movie.
No, I'm just saying in a movie called Hobbs and Shaw, that was always going to be the case because no one's ever heard of Hobbs and Shaw.
But we have heard of Hobbs and Shaw because it's the 9th Fast and the Furious movie.
But they're
what do you
they're
want
not main
from me?
characters. They're like Fast and the Furious is a franchise that has like 100 characters in every movie. I don't know. Even Vin Diesel's name in those movies.
His name is Vin Diesel, I think. Why is his name in that?
I don't see. That's my point. Like, it's such a huge ensemble. How could you?
Well, I'm going to come back to that.
What else do we want to talk about?
So
the scene I mentioned was the plane scene. I really enjoyed them in the plane scene until Kevin Hart showed up, and then I was
Kevin
bored.
Hart ruined it.
Yeah.
What? Like, it just was like he quite like literally just shoehorned himself into the conversation and the movie. And then was just doing his usual shtick, which I'm kind of cold on, to be honest. What else? Oh, come on! Can we talk about the this chain of cars dragging down the helicopter? Because that was amazing.
That was really fun. That was really
great.
fun.
That was really, and I loved the whole Samoa thing. I loved The Rock's mum. I loved his brother. I loved the whole chop shop thing. I thought the movie kind of came to life when they went to Samoa.
Yeah, I thought that as well. I really liked it. And obviously The Rock's very heavily involved in producing this movie. And it looked like they really went there as well, didn't it?
And was that it was when they go there, it sounded exactly like the same singer that sings on Moana.
It sounded very like Moana.
But we've listened to that soundtrack in and out, and I swear it's the same singer.
Well, look, it's from the same general region, the music, but I can't say that I think it's the same singer. It could be. You're right. They sounded very similar. But
that man's voice sounded the same. Is what I'm
very
saying.
Similar.
All right. Two things that this movie did that I am tired of.
Yeah.
And the Fast and Furious movie series have become quite famous at being very lazy in many regards, and this is two of those things. For instance, the last movie being about fucking hackers and trying to whatever giant leagues of hackers.
Well, turn to Jason Statham and his sister are both amazing hackers.
They can do everything. This movie villain, it did the tired formula now of villains trying to save the Earth through genocide, which we've seen with Thanos. It was in.
It's in everything.
It's just like this movie's a few years too late for that, I think. So it's a kind of an interesting concept that is not that this movie just copied and pasted from somewhere else and spent no time developing.
I mean, there was also Idris Elba was completely copied and pasted from a million movies.
Idris Elba is doing it the best he can here great. With nothing to do, really. I mean, he has a physicality and he delivers his lines very well, but really he's just literally cybernetically
character, and he's playing a 1D character, and he's a good enough actor that he still added charisma and screen presence to it. And I mean, I enjoyed his performance. I think it did as much as he could. I thought it was really cool when he was I'm the Black Superman, and I thought it was really cool the way he was he seemed to be genetically attuned to his motorbike.
Oh,
it seemed to respond to his thoughts.
I loved all that
was
stuff.
Cool, yeah.
That was awesome. The way the way he slid. There's some amazing looking stuff here where he slides his motorbike under those two lorries.
Yeah, that was
and
really
then somehow
cool.
contorts his body.
Jason
and the motorbike
drives a car under a lorry. That was a bit. I was I'm totally into this movie. I'm just really enjoying this sequence. So that was really fun. It really annoyed me the way when they're all in the cars doing those mental chases. Nobody wears seatbelts. And at one point, Jason Statham says to his sister, "Hold on." And they jump over a cliff or something in their car.
She should have been.
She falls out of the car and she's hanging at the side. And what did you think would happen? You have no seatbelt on and your brother's driving like that. It's ridiculous. And the other thing it did that really annoyed me, logistically, like that, is very similar to criticism I had of the previous movie. this whole sequence is where people are talking to each other, where you're like, this makes no sense, right? At one point there's a 5-car pile-up, The Rock's at the very end of it and someone else at the very top, and The Rock's like hanging off a helicopter, and he speaks an instruction to somebody. He doesn't even like shout, and the guy just does it. And another point, The Rock's on the back of the truck being hauled up by the helicopter.
Yeah, and they're just having a conversation.
He's just having a conversation.
Like there's a helicopter over their heads, which would be deafening to all involved.
Chatting.
Like people in the helicopters have to talk to each other through like mics and headphones, and they're sitting next to each other.
And never mind, there's also truck noise.
There's truck noise,
and they're just like having the bands.
Now, admittedly, maybe they have earpieces
No,
in, because
they
you
didn't.
do see them put in earpieces at the beginning.
They really didn't. And then my favourite bit of that
It's a
whole
very
sequence,
common action movie
The
problem.
Rock at one point actually holds the helicopter with the rope.
Yes.
That was so good. And actually,
He's stronger than a helicopter.
the other thing that was really cool at the very start was or kind of in the first act, you know, when Idris Elba and the baddies all break into this glass building to kind of kidnap Jason Statham's sister, Vanessa Kirby, and they all jump out of the windows at the same time and kind of start going down a rope down the building, and then The Rock's like jumping on top of them and Jason Statham's in an elevator. That was a really good sequence as well. I really enjoyed all that.
It was a good sequence, except it's the whole thing is in the trailer.
Oh, see, I don't think you should watch trailers for movies like this.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Watched it.
And it was an enjoyable little moment when I saw it the first time, and then I've seen it 8 times since then.
So that ruins it for you, doesn't it?
But they did the movie plays them does that trick quite a lot, as in taking, which I thought they did effectively, taking an action scene and having the two of them have 2 different approaches to the action scene and having them sort of compete against each other.
Yeah, it was really good. Like Jason Statham just gets in a lift. Like, why would you jump down a building?
Yeah, so
that's
a good example. There was the other one where they're breaking into the facility in the Ukraine, and they each pick a door, and he says, you know, oh, you got the one with all the baddies behind it, and then The Rock gets the tall guy, and then they're just watching each other through this glass and constantly competing.
I'm pretty sure that a sequence very like that is in the last movie, but they're in a prison together.
Yeah, they escape from a prison together. It's the
they're
same.
like looking.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
And then
the movie knows, they know what to do with The Rock and Jason Statham, and they just kind of repeat it over and over again. But it's a good formula. They kind of have figured out the formula, and
clearly
it's working.
the actors like enjoy working together, which now makes me wonder, right, so Vin Diesel hates The Rock, but The Rock and Jason Statham are clearly bezies because they basically produced this movie to star in together. Does that mean now by association Vin Diesel hates Jason Statham?
I mean,
we need to find this out.
We can only speculate.
We need to find this out. Okay, and I have one more thing to say, and then you say the rest of your points.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this now forever in movies, and I'd really like if someone could point me out as being wrong. The Rock is a sexless entity in movies.
I knew you were going to say
He always has a kind of love interest. And then when it comes down to it, in this movie, they had a peck. Like a peck, like you'd kiss your grandmother kind of a peck. In Skyscraper with his wife was a very similar thing. In Baywatch it was a similar thing. In fact, any Rock movie that I can think of, and we go and see them all because we love The Rock on this podcast, it's always the case. He has this because he's got insane chemistry with everyone. So he's got it with Jason Statham, he's got it with Vanessa Kirby, he's even got it with Idris Elba. So it's weird. It's like
but he rarely has sexual chemistry.
But that's what I mean. It's like it's a clause in his contract. What was the other one we saw about the apes a couple of years ago? It was the same thing in that one.
What ape? Rampage.
Yeah, it's in his contract. Like, I will never have actual physical contact, like sexual contact.
I don't think
anyone.
he's ever been in a sex scene.
I can't picture it.
And I actually wrote down, because I knew you were going to bring this up.
Really?
I wrote down The Rock has a kiss in this movie, which is rare. You rarely actually. And you sometimes he has love interests, but it rarely culminates in
a peck
any actual physical contact.
This is the sexiest scene The Rock's ever been in. And then they didn't even. I kind of thought, okay, well they're gonna obviously I'm a romantic. I wanted them to end up together. But at the very least, I thought we might get another scene with them, kind of as payoff to the romance. And then we just got nothing.
I mean, I'm going to wildly speculate again as the reasoning behind this, but I think you're right.
Sexless clause in the contract.
I think sexless clause sums it up nicely.
It's like in Sex and the City, right? All of the actresses used to get their bras off, except Sarah Jessica Parker, because it was in her contract. Yeah. The Rock is taking that to the nth degree, and he refuses to even do more than a peck.
But that's because The Rock knows his own brand so well. And he's a PG-13 brand.
Yeah, but you can be a PG-13 brand and have your arm around someone, or have
Gross.
any sort of romantic, like it's
Disgusting.
It's just unusual. That's all I have to say on
no,
it.
look, it's probably a little bit
It's interesting.
overboard.
I'm going to go on IMDb, go through every movie he's ever been in, and figure out if he's ever actually been in a proper kissing scene.
Cathy's going to do a spin-off podcast, which is the Rock. What is it? The Rock.
The Rock Unwrapped.
The Rock Sex Quest.
No, The Rock Unwrapped.
The Rock Unwrapped.
No, The Rock Undressed.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, okay.
But
I'll
he's
listen to
always
that.
undressed, like.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. You
continually
can catch
naked but never
Cathy
having
at
sex.
therockundressed.podbean.com. I don't really have much else to say except the end credits sequence, of which there were too many.
Oh my god, I cried at the end.
They stopped. What? Oh,
Yeah.
when Helen Mirren saw the two of them. Was
I
that when-
cried. Then they did the split screen. It was actually too much for me when Helen Mirren
It
cried.
was too much for
when
you,
her
was it?
kids came in, because at the start, like, I was like, oh god, I'd hate if I had kids who were feuding. And then at the same time, The Rock's daughter meets her granny in Samoa, and I thought those two things are really wonderful, so I cried.
Yeah, but they've all seemed to have forgotten about Luke Evans, their other brother. Like, it
Wait,
just
is
seems
Luke
like...
Evans their brother?
Yeah, that was in the last
oh, no,
movie.
he said,
or the one
to
before
Idris
that.
Elba,
No,
you made me kill my brother. And I went, huh?
I knew you wouldn't remember that.
I didn't know what he was talking
Actually, no, I'm sorry. You didn't see that movie. I saw it without you years ago
about.
when we
Luke
saw it
Evans
in
was in the
Australia.
last movie.
Yeah, but that was a cameo. He was
He
the...
clearly wasn't dead, like.
He was... Hang on.
Who cares?
Jason Statham
Dave, who
shows
cares?
up in Fast and Furious 6, I think, as the villain. And then the 7th one, he's a good guy.
Dave,
or something.
doesn't matter.
Or maybe I've got
Stop.
that wrong.
Stop, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, there's so many. But also, Jason Statham kills one of the main characters in The Fast and the Furious. In the movie he was the villain in. A horrible, horrible villain who point blank kills Han, the main character from Tokyo Drift, which nobody seems to address or have
nobody
forgotten
cares.
about. Except for a passing line where in this movie where he says,
I've done some bad things.
I've done some bad things while I was on the run, like murdering someone in cold blood for no reason.
Yeah, but also speaking of their complete disregard for like casual pedestrians and like innocent bystanders, the chase they do through the streets of London, again, like horrific, like just like in the last movie. Like if I was like on London Bridge,
we live here.
Like
that could have been us.
Literally, it's like, yeah, you're cheering for them, and then you kind of look at the absolute destruction and devastation around them. Like, it's an interesting franchise that the central characters who are supposed to be our heroes in like a PG-13 world are so callous
and
around
also,
like innocent bystanders.
I'm sorry, I've driven in London. There's no way you can have a high-speed chase with the levels of traffic
really wouldn't work.
that are currently...
Do you pay a congestion charge?
Yes, good question. Also, his Lamborghini showed up out of nowhere.
What do you mean?
He got a lift out of a building and then had his Lamborghini. That was his own
They
bulletproof
showed him
Lamborghini.
at the very start of the movie in the split screen, getting into it from his garage.
Yes, well, how and where did it just show up after he
I don't know,
jumped out of the
valet.
building? Okay, anyway, my last thing was those This is a really interesting instance where the end credits of this movie spoil the end of Game of Thrones, which we won't spoil here.
Oh my god!
Which I thought was
Weird. And I actually
the whole running Game of Thrones joke
Yeah,
wasn't funny.
weird.
And wasn't funny was trying to be really... It felt like the writers trying to be really clever, or maybe Ryan Reynolds and The Rock threw it in
Oh God,
on the
it's so
day.
bad.
But anyway, it was painfully cringe. They kept it running, and then he straight up like spoils the ending of a show that only ended 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, what's the...
Why?
You know, I think we're probably okay now to spoil The Sixth Sense. Like, there's the statute of limitations is up on the end of that movie.
Yeah, but look, you have to
But
understand with Game of
there's
Thrones.
people who haven't seen Game of Thrones.
There's people who haven't seen it, but to be fair, Game of Thrones is this weird phenomenon where within 24 hours of it airing, something like 90% of people who will ever watch it have already seen it. Okay.
Does that make it okay?
No, and
to
I'm
just
saying
drop it in a
my
movie?
issue wasn't the spoiler, right? My issue was, well, I thought the spoiler was weird, but my bigger issue was, why would you date stamp your movie like this? You know, it's like when
Yeah.
you watch those kind of bro comedies from the noughties, and like if you kind of flick one on TV now, they're so dated because they're referencing things that are very specifically like from that year. And this
like what?
movie
Give me
did
an
that.
example.
You know the kind of
Like
movies
Lost?
like Dude, Where's My Car? Those kind of movies. And then like another movie references it,
Oh,
and you're like,
or-
why are you
or-
referencing things from that year?
Or if you watch Scary Movie.
Well, yeah, but look,
and-
that's a parody. That's slightly different.
No,
I just
no,
think-
but parodies. Airplane is a parody, and that's got very few references.
Yeah, that's
whereas
timeless.
Scary Movie has a piss take of the Budweiser ad. What's up?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
You
if you
completely
showed that to a
date-stamped
kid nowadays, they wouldn't know what
Yeah,
that
I just
means.
thought it was weird, and I think you're probably right about them riffing because the initial Game of Thrones comment made sense in that his daughter went, his daughter looked at like the CIA report and said, "Oh, this is nothing. I've seen Game of Thrones." And like that's kind of
which
funny.
is a fine throwaway gag that they then thought,
and
let's
then
run
Rock
with
goes,
it.
"You know nothing," which you should have left it at that. And then he goes, "Jon Snow." I was like, "Well, no, you wouldn't call her Jon Snow because she's your daughter." Anyway, yeah, totally agree. Game of Thrones stuff was bizarre, and every time it did it, like took me out of the movie, made me like cringe because it was so weird and like so try hard. It was exactly like someone in his kind of late 40s trying to be down with the kids. Pretty much what it felt like.
Yeah, and some of the comedy felt like this. The comedy was a little hit and miss.
Yeah.
But overall was carried by just the natural charisma of the...
Who plays the Rock's
Rock
brother? Because that was really annoying.
Luke
me.
Evans.
No, the Rock's brother.
Oh, the
in
Rock's
Samoa.
brother. Oh my God, I forget the actor's name.
I tried Googling it and it won't. Google is like, you won't guess the cameos in Fast and Furious. I'm like, no, what's his name?
Oh,
can't
great,
even see it on
yeah.
IMDb.
So Google's like, nobody will guess them, and you're fucking dropping
But
them like spoilers, like it's hot.
I do not consider it a cameo for someone to be in at least 4 scenes of a movie, like over the course of a movie.
But can't you admit that the whole point of a cameo is a surprise? He wasn't wasn't in any of the trailers. He's a
I
huge
didn't know
name,
that.
and
I
then
don't
showed
watch
up.
the trailers.
Okay, fine, but like you've got to be a bit more careful.
Ironically, this happened in our last Fast and the Furious review. Only I know because I listened to it earlier. You said I spoiled Luke Evans.
Yeah,
because I hadn't
there
seen
you
the
go. So
trailer.
you're on a hot streak. Anyway,
better go.
let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone for listening. We are the Cinemile. If this is your first time listening to us, please subscribe.
Head over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe,
loads more
rate,
stuff.
review. Yeah, we'd love that.
And leave us a review. We'd love if you could all leave us a review if you haven't already, because it just helps us so much to keep this thing going.
But come on Twitter,
Keep the coal
Facebook
shovel.
or Instagram and talk to us at the Cinemile, or we're at the cinemile@gmail.com.
Yes, let's go inside. We've been kind of just wandering outside our house for a bit.
Bye.
One last thing. This is now the Fast and the Furious universe, I guess, because they're trying to do the MCU thing, right?
Are
So
they?
what do you call it?
What do you mean? What do you call it?
As in, it's a cinematic universe, right? Now that's what they're trying to do. That's what they're doing. End credit sequences, or they always do that. So is it like, because we have the MCU, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe? So is this the FFU?
I mean,
FFCU?
it could be. I don't think that's going to take off, but good luck to you.
That was our little after credits sequence there. All right, come on, let's go home. Bye. You can say bye?
Bye. I already said bye, and then you started weirdly talking about the MCU.
Yeah, this is the after credit sequence. This is where we go inside the house and Mark Commode's there, and he says, I'm putting a team together.
Okay, bye.
You had to open your big mouth, didn't you, huh?
Yeah, I thought it was a cool thing to say in the moment.